Hello. Today General Hospital will reveal a deadly fire broke out at Charlie's pub, devastating Port Charles and thrusting Kristina into a life-threatening situation that would forever change the lives of those around her. As the intense flames ravaged the beloved local bar, Kristina found herself trapped inside, unable to escape the overwhelming smoke and heat. The city, a usually tight-knit community, was gripped by panic as news spread that one of their own was caught in the blaze. For Kristina's family, the terror of the situation became all-consuming. Alexis, already embroiled in a tense confrontation with Jen Sidwell at Windermere, received the horrifying news of the fire and immediately rushed to the scene. Her heart raced with fear as she battled disbelief. Kristina was trapped inside, and her life hung in the balance. At the same time, suspicion gnawed at Alexis. Her mind raced, tying the fire back to her earlier confrontation with Sidwell. Was this another attack on her family, another strike against Sunny? Could Sidwell have been behind this? The notion was terrifying, but Alexis couldn't shake the feeling that there was something more sinister at play. The chaos only deepened as the emergency response unfolded. At General Hospital, the scene was pure pandemonium. Cody Bell, normally a figure of calm, entered the emergency room, but his somber expression and the news he carried shattered the fragile peace. He delivered the devastating news to Sasha and Molly, who had been anxiously waiting for updates. Molly's face turned pale as her worst fears came to life. Kristina was fighting for her life. Michael, too, was beside himself, desperately trying to hold it together for his family. The weight of the situation settled like a dark cloud over them all. Kristina was in critical condition, and the fire that threatened to consume her had become the most terrifying ordeal they could have imagined. In a shocking twist of fate, a hero emerged from the shadows. Marco Rios, a figure who had always been tied to the more murky side of Port Charles, found himself in a position he never expected. With no hesitation, driven by a sense of duty and a fierce determination, Marco dashed into the flames. He plunged into the burning building without regard for his own safety, and somehow, amidst the smoke and flames, he found Kristina. His actions, though unexpected, became a pivotal moment in the chaos. Marco wasn't the person anyone would have guessed would play the role of a hero, but in that moment, he was the one who saved Kristina's life. His bravery shocked everyone, especially as the true nature of Sidwell's connection to the fire remained unclear. Had Marco's actions just shifted the entire balance of power in Port Charles? Sunny, however, couldn't let this pass by without consequences. While the immediate threat of the fire subsided, the fear and uncertainty lingered, like a heavy fog. Alexis, though relieved to see Kristina alive, remained unsettled. Her motherly instincts flared as she vowed to protect her family at all costs. The trauma of almost losing another child was too much for her to bear. She swore that Sidwell would not get away with this, that he had not won, and that the fight was far from over. Sunny, too, found himself consumed with questions. Who would want to harm Kristina in such a violent and personal way? Could it really be Sidwell? With the fire now out, the pieces of the puzzle were beginning to align, but more questions emerged. Was there a larger conspiracy at play? And if Sidwell was truly behind it, what were his true intentions? Sunny made a solemn vow to his family, this would not go unanswered. The fire had only marked the beginning of a far greater storm that was coming. As the investigation unfolded, the full scope of the threat to his family became terrifyingly clear, and Sunny knew that he would stop at nothing to protect them. The game had changed, and it was now a battle he was prepared to fight with everything he had. Just as the community of Port Charles began to breathe a collective sigh of relief after Kristina's dramatic rescue from the fire, another shockwave hit. The nightmare that had seemed to subside suddenly escalated to an even darker, more unsettling revelation. Jason, who had been tirelessly investigating the circumstances surrounding the fire, disclosed a stunning piece of information: Natalya had never boarded the flight she had supposedly booked. This revelation left everyone stunned and sent a ripple of doubt and suspicion through every corner of the city. How could this be? Natalya's whereabouts had been a mystery from the very start, and now, this new detail added another layer of complexity to an already convoluted situation. The question everyone was now asking was whether Natalya's escape had been part of a much bigger, more dangerous plot. This sudden twist in the story threw the already fragile investigation into chaos. The dots were starting to connect, but the answers were no longer as simple as they once seemed. Sidwell's involvement became all but certain. It was becoming clear that Natalya might not just be an innocent bystander, but a key player in whatever dark game Sidwell was orchestrating behind the scenes. Her failure to board the flight, coupled with her cryptic behavior in the days leading up to the fire, suggested that she was hiding something that was undeniably connected to Sidwell and perhaps even to the larger conspiracy at play. It was almost as if her life, and the events surrounding her, were ticking time bombs, waiting to explode at the most dangerous moment. Meanwhile, back at Carly's home, tension was brewing in another corner of Port Charles. Carly had recently noticed some alarming behavior from her daughter, Jocelyn, and her concerns only deepened as she continued to observe Jocelyn's increasingly secretive actions. As a mother, Carly was sharp and instinctive, and she sensed that her daughter was hiding something from her. The normally open and trusting relationship they had shared seemed to be slipping away, replaced by an air of mystery and, perhaps, deceit. Carly's growing anxiety culminated in a confrontation that no one had seen coming. She demanded answers from Jocelyn, her voice sharp with suspicion as she pressed her daughter about her behavior and the strange conversations Carly had overheard. Jocelyn, ever the skilled manipulator, tried her best to deflect, playing innocent and denying any wrongdoing. But beneath her calm exterior, there was a sense of panic, a desperation to keep her ambitions and secrets hidden. Jocelyn was caught in a web of her own making, entangled in her secretive ambitions with the WSB, ambitions she desperately wanted to keep under wraps. The weight of the truth was pressing on her, and Carly was starting to sense the cracks in her daughter's facade. Jocelyn, for all her deflections, could no longer mask the inner turmoil that was slowly unraveling her. Carly, however, was no fool. The more she pressed, the more she realized that Jocelyn was hiding far more than she was letting on. The lies were piling up, and the secrets Jocelyn kept seemed to be growing more dangerous by the day. Carly's suspicions grew stronger as she pieced together the subtle clues Jocelyn had let slip. Cryptic comments, mysterious phone calls, and a series of unexplainable actions that pointed towards something much larger than her daughter's typical teenage rebellion. Carly's heart sank as she realized that her daughter was entangled in something far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. The emotional toll on Carly was immense. She loved her daughter fiercely, and the thought that Jocelyn might be involved in something as dangerous as the WSB, an organization Carly had only heard whispers of, was almost too much to bear. Her protective instincts flared, and she knew that she had to get to the bottom of it before Jocelyn got too deep. But the more she uncovered, the more complicated everything became. It was clear that this was no ordinary teenage phase. Jocelyn had crossed a line, and now, there was no turning back. As the tension between mother and daughter reached a boiling point, Port Charles was on the brink of uncovering two explosive secrets, one that could unravel the very fabric of the Corinthos family and another that could bring down the dangerous game Sidwell was playing. Time was running out for everyone involved, and as the puzzle pieces began to fit together, one thing became painfully clear. The road ahead would be paved with even more danger, deception, and betrayal than anyone had anticipated. As the embers of the fire slowly began to fade and Port Charles started its painful process of recovery, a chilling sense of unease settled over the city. The aftermath of the blaze had left a deep scar on the community, but beneath the surface, more dangerous threats were quietly stirring, waiting for the right moment to strike. The battle with Sidwell, which had been set into motion by the recent events, was far from over. In fact, it was only the beginning, and the true extent of the conspiracy remained shrouded in mystery, ready to unravel at any given moment. Sidwell's machinations had only just begun to take shape, and those who found themselves caught in his web of lies and deceit were unaware of the storm that was building on the horizon. His influence in Port Charles was like a shadow, lurking just out of sight, but growing stronger with each passing day. As the city slowly healed from the devastating fire, it became apparent that the true war had yet to begin. Sidwell, a man whose hidden motives and dark past were only beginning to come to light, was playing a much larger game than anyone had anticipated. And no one, not even the strongest and most influential figures in the city, could predict just how far he was willing to go to achieve his goals. For the residents of Port Charles, the days ahead would be filled with increasingly difficult decisions. Relationships would be tested, alliances would be formed and broken, and secrets that had long been buried would come crashing to the surface, revealing the darkest corners of the characters' lives. Every step taken, every word spoken, and every decision made would have the potential to change everything. The fragile peace that had begun to settle over the city was a mere illusion, and the calm before the storm was about to shatter. Kristina, who had narrowly escaped death in the fire, found herself at the center of the turmoil. While she had been saved from the flames, the emotional scars she carried would take much longer to heal. As she tried to rebuild her life, the shadow of Sidwell's schemes loomed large. She had unknowingly become an integral part of his plans, and now, with her life hanging in the balance, she would have to navigate a world where nothing was as it seemed. No one could be trusted, and the lines between friend and foe were blurred beyond recognition. Alexis, too, found herself caught in a whirlwind of chaos. Having been a key player in uncovering Sidwell's connection to the fire, she knew that the battle was far from over. Her determination to protect her family from the clutches of Sidwell's influence was unwavering, but as new threats emerged, she found herself questioning her every move. Was she doing enough to safeguard those she loved, or was she walking straight into Sidwell's trap? The more she dug into his past, the more she realized just how dangerous the situation had become, and the stakes were higher than ever. Sonny, ever the protector, was not one to back down from a fight. But the revelation that someone had tried to kill Kristina left him rattled, questioning everything he thought he knew about those around him. His thirst for vengeance would drive him to the edge, as he vowed to take down Sidwell no matter the cost. However, the road to justice was not a straight one, and every step forward seemed to uncover even more sinister layers to the plot. As Sonny prepared for war, he knew that this would not be a battle won by sheer strength alone. It would require cunning, strategy, and an unyielding resolve to do whatever it took to protect his family. In the midst of all this, Jocelyn's secrets grew heavier. Carly, who had always prided herself on her relationship with her daughter, was now facing a painful reality. Her child was involved in something far more dangerous than she had ever imagined. Jocelyn's connection to the WSB, and the dark ambitions that she harbored, put both her and the entire family in jeopardy. Carly was determined to find the truth, but the more she uncovered, the more she realized how much she had underestimated the situation. Jocelyn, caught between her own desires and her loyalty to her family, would soon be forced to make decisions that would change the course of her life forever. As these tensions unfolded, the danger surrounding Port Charles intensified. The undercurrents of deceit, betrayal, and manipulation ran deep, and the people caught in the storm found themselves trapped in a web they couldn't escape. With Sidwell's influence spreading further into the lives of the city's residents, everyone was forced to pick sides, knowing that each choice they made could tip the balance of power in a world already teetering on the edge. This was only the beginning. The war that was now unfolding would be a battle of wills, a test of loyalty and strength, and a fight for survival. Each character would be forced to confront their darkest fears, their deepest desires, and their hardest truths. In a city where no one was truly safe, where enemies could be disguised as friends, and where betrayal was always just one step away, every decision mattered. The clock was ticking, and with every passing moment, the stakes grew higher. The residents of Port Charles were about to find out just how far they would go to protect those they loved, and just how much they were willing to lose in the process. As the dust began to settle in Port Charles, the city slowly started to recover from the devastating fire at Charlie's pub, but beneath the surface, a much darker storm was brewing. The seemingly quiet aftermath of the blaze was only the calm before an even more terrifying tempest. With Sidwell's shadow looming over the entire city, it was becoming increasingly clear that this was not just another scandal or petty crime, it was a battle for control, power, and survival. Kristina, despite narrowly escaping the deadly flames, couldn't shake the terror that had gripped her in those harrowing moments. But what terrified her more than the fire itself was the realization that her life had become a mere pawn in Sidwell's game. Each day, as she tried to piece her life back together, she found herself trapped in a labyrinth of lies, deception, and betrayal. The city she once knew had changed, and so had she. The woman who walked out of the hospital after the fire was no longer the same. She was stronger, more determined, but also far more wary. Sidwell had made it personal, and Kristina knew that to truly be free, she would have to unravel the full extent of his conspiracy and take him down, no matter the cost. Meanwhile, Alexis, who had been pushing herself to the limit to protect her family, found herself questioning whether her strength was enough to keep her loved ones safe. Her recent confrontation with Sidwell had only scratched the surface of the darkness he was capable of, and the closer she got to the truth, the more she realized that her worst fears were coming to life. This wasn't just about a few bad actors or a misguided vendetta, it was a full-scale assault on everything she held dear. But Alexis wasn't a woman to back down from a fight. With the weight of her children's lives resting on her shoulders, she knew there was no turning back. Sidwell had threatened her family, and now, Alexis was prepared to take whatever steps were necessary to end the threat once and for all. The stakes had never been higher. Sunny, too, was on a path of destruction. The shock of the fire, coupled with the revelation that someone had deliberately targeted Kristina, had ignited something deep within him. His fury was palpable, and every fiber of his being was focused on one thing: vengeance. No one hurt his family without facing the consequences. But the deeper Sunny dug into Sidwell's operations, the more he realized that this was not just a battle for survival, it was a war for the soul of Port Charles itself. Sidwell wasn't just trying to destroy Sunny's family, he was trying to take control of everything Sunny had built. And Sunny wasn't about to let that happen. The stakes were personal, and with every move Sidwell made, Sunny grew more determined to expose him for the monster he truly was. However, Sunny's pursuit of justice would not come without its own complications. As the investigation into Sidwell's machinations deepened, Sunny found himself clashing with some of his most trusted allies. The lines between right and wrong began to blur as more secrets came to light. With loyalties tested, betrayals surfaced, and alliances that once seemed unbreakable started to fracture. Sunny's singular focus on defeating Sidwell made him a powerful force, but it also made him a target. Sidwell was playing a much deeper game, one that involved far more than just Port Charles. It was a global operation, and Sunny was now at the heart of it. And then there was Jocelyn, whose secrets were beginning to weigh heavily on her soul. Carly's suspicions about her daughter's involvement with the WSB had shaken the foundation of their relationship, and Jocelyn found herself caught between her mother's love and the dangerous ambitions she had kept hidden. Carly's discovery had left Jocelyn reeling, but it also pushed her to make a choice: continue down the path of secrecy and manipulation, or come clean and face the consequences. The deeper Jocelyn got involved with the WSB, the more she realized that she was playing with fire, and sooner or later, the consequences of her actions would catch up with her. Her relationship with Carly was fraying, and she had to decide whether to fight for her family's trust or plunge herself further into the shadowy world she had so carefully constructed. The turning point came when Carly, desperate to protect her daughter, confronted Jocelyn in a moment of raw emotion. As mother and daughter stood face to face, the weight of the lies between them was undeniable. Carly's heart broke as she realized how far Jocelyn had drifted from the girl she once knew. But as the truth began to spill out, the harsh reality of Jocelyn's choices hit Carly like a thunderclap. Jocelyn had made her own decisions, and Carly could no longer protect her from the consequences. The rift between them widened, and Jocelyn knew that she had to make a decision. Could she come back from this? Or was she too far gone? At the same time, Port Charles itself was teetering on the edge of chaos. Sidwell's reach extended further than anyone had imagined, and as his plans began to unfold, the city found itself trapped in a web of political power plays, dark alliances, and unspeakable secrets. The quiet streets were no longer a safe haven for the people who had once called them home. In a town where everyone had a secret and no one could be trusted, it was only a matter of time before the city erupted.